In this video I'm going to code our mouse drag box. So this is it now, I'm just showing you the finished product. So by the end of this video we would have coded this, and it works really well, really nice and smooth, and doesn't take any overhead. We're still at the same frames per second as we were before we used this, and overall it's pretty good. So okay, before I do that I'm just going to replace my script back to the one we were working on before. And there's a couple of things I want to edit, let's get rid of that, in our script. So the first thing is that our currently selected unit variable is no longer being used, so I'm going to delete that. That was when we were just storing one object, not multiple objects. And our array list we can say of, let's say of game object, because we need to know what type of objects we're storing in our array list. If there's multiple objects or types of objects, we don't need to do this, but because we're just storing game objects, it's good to let the user know, because when we take an object we need to cast it as the type. Alright guys, and I think that's all we need to do here. I'm going to define a couple more variables, a public GUI style, and we're going to call it mouse drag skin. Alright, and we're also going to store a couple more, a private static vector 3 mouse up points, okay? Because when we finish dragging, once we know the mouse down point and the up point in the 3D space, we can refer to these two variables and find out the area and what objects are in the area. So we'll do that in the next video, alright guys? And there's one more I'm going to store, and it's going to be called a vector 3 again, current mouse point. Okay, so the current mouse point, we'll be using that in a minute as well. So I looked through my script and there's a couple more things we can improve. For some reason, I don't know why, I got these things modeled up in the previous video, so that's the end of the whoops, press Ctrl Z there. So this is the end of the update method, not the raycast. So that is the end of the raycast, okay, because we said if the raycast is hitting nothing we can do this, and that's the end of it. Alright, so looking at my script, there's one more thing I noticed. Debug log user is no longer dragging when we release the mouse up, but we also release the mouse up when we're not dragging, when we're clicking as well. So we can just say if user is dragging, then debug user stopped dragging. User has stopped dragging, and then say user stopped dragging equals false. Okay. And we've used the same function here twice. We said if the mouse is down, and then we said if the mouse is down again, okay, because it was easier to template this out and then code it in. So now we can optimize it. We can say, yep, I want to put more statements in this if statement, and then just get rid of this one. Okay, so our script is a lot nicer now. I think that's all we need to do here. So let's get to the mouse drag. So I've declared the GUI style called mouse drag skin. So if we go back to our script here, it should update any second or something. Okay, our mouse drag skin, and as you can see we've got loads of styles, attributes we can edit. It's a bit like CSS, so we can edit the margin, the padding, overflow, the font, everything, but we're just interested in two things. So you might ask yourself, well, these are a lot of things to get involved with. If we just want to make a box, do we have to use this? And the answer is no, you don't have to. You can use a method that draws each of the pixels separately, or some other stuff like that, but this is the simplest way, and most of these things will be zeroed out, so they won't be being used by Unity anyway. So don't worry about the overhead, it will be absolutely fine. It won't take up much memory and stuff. So I've done the tests in the profiler as well, and they're pretty much the same. So for the box we're going to use a graphic I'd made in Photoshop, so I'm just going to show you this to start with. So here it is. It's mostly transparent, so the middle bit is only a 10% opacity, and the border itself is 80%. So as you can see, the middle bit is a bright green, and the outside edge is a very, very dark green. And it's just a 10 pixel by 10 pixel image. And you might wonder, well, that's really small if you're going to drag the whole lot through the scene. And the reason is this, guys. We declare in pixels the border, so we say 1 pixel for the border, and then Unity takes the first pixel from each side of the image and they act as the border. Okay, so if we put 2 pixels in here, it will take 2 pixels inwards. So theoretically we could have made a 3 by 3 image, but 10 by 10 is just as good, doesn't really matter. Okay, so we've declared our border. we could just say, yeah, we're going to stretch the height, just to let the user know we are going to stretch the height and the width because the box is constantly changing. And if we go to our normal variables, we can change the background to the texture I just showed you. So I've called it mouse drag background. Okay, and that's all we need to do. Alright, so there's a couple more things I want to mention about the texture, but firstly I want to get a box in the scene to show you guys what it's like. So after the update function, I'm going to actually remember this current mouse point we just stored, so I'm just going to say current mouse point equals hit.point. Okay, so every frame just storing the current mouse point in 3D space. So we can change this to world space. So this is the current mouse point in world space. Okay, so hit point, that's really good. We can refer to that now in other functions. So I'm going to put the GUI method here. So void on GUI. So to draw this box, that's always changing. We need 4 values. We need the box width, the height, the top corner, and the left corner. So the top left corner, so the top point and the left point, okay, of the box. So I'm just going to draw out the box to begin with. So I'm just going to say box left equals input mouse position dot x. Okay, guys, that is it for the box left. Okay, so it's always going to be the mouse position. Okay, and the box top value is going to be, let's just put input dot mouse position dot y for now. Okay, so just to keep things simple for now, so I can explain things as we go along. And let's draw our box. So we can say GUI dot box, a new rect, box left. Just plug in all of our values. So box top. Okay, and the width and height for now, let's just for now put 100. Okay, so after them things, we're not going to have any text in our box, so we just leave that blank. And for the style, we can just say mouse drag skin. And that's our box, guys. And we only want the box to show if we're dragging. So if user is dragging, show the box. Alright, that's our function. So let's go to the game now and see what we've got so far. And the name box left does not exist in the current context. One more thing we need to do, which is declare the actual variables. So let's just say we want to declare 2 floats, box left, box top. Okay, so with that, let's go back to our scene and see what we've got so far, because there's quite a lot of explaining to do. So if I click and hold and drag out the box, well, the box is showing, but it's in the wrong place to start with, because the coordinates in a GUI are, the Y coordinate in a GUI is the opposite to the mouse coordinates. Okay, guys, so in the mouse coordinates, 0, 0 is down here. In the GUI, 0, 0 is up here. So the X value is absolutely fine. It's still working at the same values, but the Y is the opposite. So for the box top, we can say screen dot height minus the input mouse position dot Y. Okay, so let's just try that again. Wait for Unity to load. Okay, so that's good. Now we've inverted the Y position and everything's working just fine. Okay, so what's next? Well, we need to define the box width and the height. So we can say float box width equals, and we're going to use a function, a Unity function. So we're going to take the 3D world space where our mouse is and then convert it to 2D space, and you'll realize why in a minute. So we can use this function here, which I found on the scripting reference, world to screen point. So camera world to screen point, and we're going to say camera main world to screen point, and we're going to say the mouse down point to start with dot x. So dot x. Okay, so we're taking the x value of this, and we're going to minus the current mouse point to work out the width. So the mouse down point, which we first click the mouse down, minus the current point where the mouse is. So then we get the value in between those 2 points. So camera main world to screen point, and then we say current mouse point dot x outside the parentheses. Okay, guys, so that is our box width, and the same goes for the box height. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, and then we can change this to Y, change this one to Y as well. So okay, that's our box width and height. We can plug these in here, so that's our box width and that's our box height. So we're almost done here actually, so let's just go back to this and wait for it to load. So things are happening, but something's dodgy with the height. Okay, so the height's kind of changing, and the reason this looks dodgy is because the mouse is not at the bottom left when we drag down. So the mouse is always at the outer corner of where we're dragging, but it's not happening. Okay, so it's kind of happening down. No, actually no, it's not. So all we need to do here is say the box top, because we're going to manipulate the top in order to get the mouse point at the bottom at the corner all the time, is screen height minus input mouse position Y minus the box height. Alright guys, that's why I put the parentheses around here, so we can then do the box height. Let's test this again, see if it works now. Okay, that's awesome. So the box height is now moving up or down depending on where we're dragging. So the mouse is always at the outer corner of where we're dragging. Alright guys, and that's pretty much it really. So that's how we do our mouse GUI drag. More simple than you thought maybe? I don't know. So there's just one more thing I want to touch on actually. So the texture of the GUI. So I've changed the texture type to GUI. The filter mode is point. And there's a reason we do point. It's because the colour stays solid without any blending or transition between the different shades in the texture. So if we go to bilinear, for example, actually let's apply that and quit the game and play the game again. And as you can see, the text is trying to blend from the border to the background shade, so it looks a bit dodgy. And that's absolutely fine, because in some cases that might be what you want to do. You might not want a solid colour, you might want to blend it in. And if we go to trilinear, it tries even harder. And the border's now blending in with the main box. So change this to point. Okay, so GUI point, apply. Okay, and that's all we need to do guys. So just to remember the world to screen point, and there's a reason we've done this, and I'll show you why. So if we dragged using the 2D coordinates, we could only drag from 0 to the screen width. But if we drag from here, we can scroll and then select things outside of the 2D coordinate system. So we can select things at minus 100 or minus 200 and stuff. So that is really awesome. We can drag and scroll at the same time. Okay, and that's the reason I did that, because we might want to select units that are outside of this screen space and then, whoops, quickly drag down. We'll drag across and then it will keep that position, reference it out, and everything works pretty well. Okay. So just to recap, got the width and the height based on the 3D points, converted them to 2D. We referenced the mouse down point minus the current mouse point, and I'm sorry to keep talking about this, but it's quite important to understand. The reason it's changing the mouse position to the outermost all the time is because this returns a negative value when it's one side and a positive value when it's the other side, so the box draws it nice at the way we want it to basically. So that's our GUI box. And there's a couple more things I forgot to mention. Okay, so the first thing is that what if we drag and want to store the mouse point upwards and the hit point is not hitting anything, so the mouse up point will be 0, and that will cause an error guys. What I've did was I've just got a plane in the world and just dragged it out of the world, and so no matter where our camera is, we're always going to hit an object, and I've turned off the mesh as well, so it's just a plane. So no matter what happens, the hit point of the raycast is always going to hit an object, so it knows where it is in 3D space. Then we can convert it to 2D space. Otherwise we won't be able to convert this, it will be 0, then the box will drag right to the side of the screen to 0. Okay, and or upwards. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, okay, so this is a normal box, so if we lift it up and we kind of lift it upwards and then it kind of changes, because if we lift it up we're flipping it over and the background kind of overlaps the border, so you can't see this very well, but the top border and the right border are a slightly different shade of green than the bottom border and the left border. Okay, it's because if we lift it upside down or something, or left to right, the background overlaps the border image. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to be a problem for you guys. It probably will be if you use a two or more pixels. The user will notice it a little bit more, but you have to admit, if I didn't mention this, you wouldn't have noticed it at all. So just to keep an eye out on that one, guys. If you want really thick borders, it might be an option to not have a background, just have the borders and no shade in the middle. So it's just a design thing really, so this one looks okay anyway. Okay guys, so that's all I wanted to mention, so thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next video.